Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson. My name is Tywauna Wilson, and I am your host and your leadership mentor. Thank you so much for coming into our virtual learning laboratory, where every week I have a new mentor with me that will give practical tips that you can use in both your personal and professional life. And today is no different. I am super excited. And when I say super excited, I am super excited because I have my friend, my sister, my fellow JMT coach and friend with me here in our virtual learning laboratory, Miss Georgiana Collington, coming to us all the way from Alberta, Canada, by way of Jamaica. Georgiana, how are you?
I am well. I'm so excited to be here. And, this is such a privilege and an honor just to be amongst fellow JMTer, but also a wonderful coach and friend. So, for those of you who are watching and listening, Tawana is my coach as well. Like I've been learning vicariously through her as well. And she's been teaching us in so many ways and what to do, what not to do, how to, support each other. And this is just indicative of who she is. And, I am so blessed and honored just to have her as a coach as well. So thank you for
Oh,
having me on. Yeah.
oh, thank you. That was so sweet. Listen, I learned so much from you two. I learned just so much from each and every mentor that we have in our virtual learning laboratory. You have such a wealth of experience in the finance industry, and I'm super excited about what you're going to talk about today in regards to servant leadership. You've been able to do some awesome things, some awesome leadership development and coaching in your country as well as in Africa, and dealing with challenges there. I had a mentee there so I can understand, even though we're global and we're able to connect via the
Mhm.
internet, sometimes the internet presents its challenges.
Right.
And so just being able to have you in our virtual learning lab is just awesome. And I want to tell the listeners a little bit about our journey and how we met. And so, it's great to be vulnerable at times and to let your guard down. And I
Right.
remember meeting Georgiana. It's probably been about 3 years, 3 or 4 years now.
Yes.
And we were both getting ready for our first John Maxwell International Conference. And so, you have people coming from all over the world. They go and meet up at the conference in Orlando. And I can remember this was really, for me, it was my first big investment in my, no, not the first, but maybe the second or third big
Right.
investment in myself, as well as starting my business. And a part of going to that conference is, you paying for registration and
Mhm.
hotel and all of that. And if you've ever been to the World Marriott in Orlando, I mean, it can be as high as close to $300 a night.
Yes.
And we were there like at least 4 or 5 nights.
Mhm.
And I remember this post that they had in our group, and they said, if you're looking to room share with
Mhm.
people, to cut down on the expense. And I was thinking, man, I have my room for like 3 days, but I
Mhm.
really need to cut down on the expense and really be able to share a room with somebody, for another night or two to cut down on the expense. And I remember seeing your beautiful smiling face, and I'm like, okay, let me check her out. Let me see what she's about. And I actually I reached out to her and I said, well, are you still doing the room share? I'm looking for a night or two. Is
Mhm.
that a possibility that we can connect and I'll stay? And she was like, sure, no problem. And that was like the start of a beautiful friendship, because it was one of those things of being trusting and being open to meet somebody new, meet somebody different. And, it was just one of those things. And we connected and we were like tied at the hip for that
That's
whole
great.
conference.
That's
After
right.
we
That's
became
right.
friends. We were like, okay, I don't know what's all going on. What table are you at? What group are you at? When you going to dinner? And we were like
Mhm.
tied at the hip for that rest
Mhm.
of that conference, like we had been best friends
Yes.
forever. And after
Absolutely.
that conference, we actually got together for another conference, and we just said, "Okay, listen, we gonna
We got
hook through. We gonna hook up, and we gonna be roommates." And we did. So the following year, when we went back, and I was actually pregnant with my daughter, and
Mhm.
we were able to room together, and so yeah, this has just been an awesome friendship. So I'm just
Mhm.
super excited to see your face. I miss you, and I
I
understand
know it's
why,
been
but I do miss you, and I hope we can get together at the conference or
absolutely.
sometime soon.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so I said all of that, but I really did. I want people to know that, there are great people in the world. You got
Mhm.
to be trusting. You got to let your guard down. You got to be open and willing to network, like we talk about on here. Network and collaborate and partner with other people and find out what other people are doing. Find
Mhm.
out how different cultures are because we are really more alike than we are different. So,
Mhm. That's so true. Absolutely.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
Georgiana, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey and kind of where you are today?
Okay. Well, thank you. I share the same sentiments, Coach T, as I call her. Because the I believe that God, I'm a person of faith. I will tell you that first and foremost, and Coach T knows that as well. That I believe that we are brought together for a purpose and a reason. And looking back now, just where we are today and how that has our relationship has evolved, it's such a blessing. And I've learned so many things, as I mentioned before. So just a little bit about myself. As Coach T mentioned, I am born in Jamaica, migrated to Canada, where I've been working in the finance industry. When I left Jamaica, actually, I also worked in the accounting field as well, and decided to continue that. But one of the reasons why, I was thought to develop my leadership skills, because I was always thrust into positions where I've been asked to share my opinion and give advice or make decisions. And it's so important that when you recognize that, or that is recognized in you by other coaches, I decided I wanted to hone in on those skills and develop those skills to be better able to do so. And that's why a part of how my leadership journey started. As I reflect on my life both in Jamaica and here in Canada, I've always been in positions where a person of influence, or finding being used to connect with others, or share advice, or help develop plans and projects, and so on and so forth. And with that comes people, and dealing with that, and trying to find talent, and trying to motivate and encourage individuals. So that's how, in a nutshell, my leadership journey started, where I found that I was being thrust into positions of leadership, and wanted to be a better able to do it effectively, not just to be able to encourage and influence people positively to effect great change. And that's one of the reasons why I found JMT, because I knowing and read some of John Maxwell's book. I felt that this was an area where they could assist me in my development as a leader, and as a coach, and as a mentor. I've had other training as well, but this, I felt, John Maxwell is so renowned, and there were so many resources that they had available to them, and to us. And I felt like, what, this is something that I would want to embark on at this part of that journey, to help me become better at what I'm doing, so that when I coach, when I train, that like I myself is working on my own personal development and growth, so that I can be effective. So that's part of, in a nutshell, where my leadership, like, I've always been thrust, as I mentioned, into so many different roles, and wanted to be better at what I'm doing, and enhance lives and impact current and future generations. And and it's a continuous improvement. There's not one day where you will end learning, because we're always learning. And that's something that I've found. No matter where you are in life, you're always learning, you're always growing. And that's so important and so integral in anyone's life's journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you were thrust into these roles, and there's so many times that a lot of us, are
Hmm.
thrust into roles that we don't feel like we were quite prepared for. And I
Right.
love that you talked about that continuous learning. Like, it's very important to continue to grow and develop and keep pouring into yourself, because it's difficult to pour into other people if you're not
Hmm.
pouring into yourself. So I
That's
love
right.
that you mentioned that. So friends that are here watching and here in the virtual learning lab with us, if you can come on into the lab, if you could
Yes.
come in and share out this broadcast to whomever in your network that might be able to use this message. We are giving practical tips that you can use in both your personal and professional life. Let us know where you are coming in from. Let us know in the chat where you're coming in from, because again, we're all learning together. And so we are here. I have my friend who's here all the way from Canada. We're talking an international speaker, coach, and trainer. So I'm just excited, and I
Yeah.
hope you all are as well. So come in and make sure you introduce yourself so that we can interact with you in the comments. All right. So Georgiana has some good stuff for us today, and I'm not going to belabor what she has, but she's talking about servant leadership, right?
Yes.
Servant leadership. That is some good stuff.
Right.
So without further ado, I'll let you take it away.
Mhm. Well, thank you again, and thank you so much. This is one of the topics that is so near and dear to my heart. And I also believe, as you mentioned earlier, that as you join in, share where you're coming from. If you have questions, if you have concerns or challenges, please feel free, because I also believe there's a lot of wisdom in the room. Coach T and I, we're just individuals that are trying to learn as well. And as we learn, we grow and we teach. And that's something that I have adopted for myself, that as I learn, I'm going to teach, so that all of us can grow. And so there is no one fix to anything, as I have come across and have learned, in my lifetime. And we appreciate and welcome the resources that you may have, or contributions that you may have, that and in situations that you've may encounter, because we all experience things differently, because people are different everywhere, and situation changes all over, and how you respond, how you act, all of that matters. And it's important that we share our stories. And that's one of the things that even as we progress into the session today, it's so integral that we share our stories, and share how our lives have been impacted in our leadership journey, but also different situations and how you resolved, because we each one teaches one. That's another quote that I have for myself, that when I've learned something, then I need to teach someone else, and then we can learn from each other and grow. So without any further ado, yes, servant leadership. When we talk about leadership, in so many aspects, we leadership is, in layman terms, just influence. We're able to influence others, in our sphere or circle, whether it's in our professional, personal life, and it's but at the core of leadership, and that's something that we often forget, that it is about people. It is about people. People, if you don't, doesn't matter what profession you are in, whether you have clients or suppliers, you're dealing with people. Very few where you say, I'm dealing with just computers all the time, but at the back end of it, you need people to input information, and so on and so forth. But servant leadership, it talks to more of service. when we are designed to serve others, and serving and being a servant means that you're able to put your needs above others. And as a coach, as many of you can attest to, or a mentor, that oftentimes it's putting your need above a bit, the other person's need above your own. Your need to help cultivate, to help mentor, motivate, encourage, to help them to uncover the true potential that lies within, and but in some ways and over time we've seen, leadership and and coaching somewhat take a different turn, where it's about self-promoting. We'll hear about, my what I have done, what I have accomplished. We hear of more situations or scenarios of, okay, what my numbers, what do I earn, what have I done, the books, and all of those different things. But and I'm not saying that this is not important, but one of the things that we need to get back to is remembering that the purpose why we're here is to serve others. And its service and serving looks different in different scenarios. um when we say, leadership, it says that, impacting, making an impact, transformational impact and positive impact on others. It's about equipping and, people and in the position and in the things that they're called to do. As Coach T mentioned, she's a part, in her field, like she's encountering different people, training and developing. And if you did not have that love for people, oftentimes, it just becomes a job, and there's not much reward in it. But when you serve others and when you put other people's needs above your own, it's like you see a transformation. Then that person feels valued. They feel that they're important, that this is not a job for you, that you're not doing this because you want to get paid. It's more of, I want to see you become the best version of yourself. And that is what we want to, promote. And that's something that I've been promoting, not only in the secular job, which is in the finance industry, but also in ministry. Because so often that, leadership and the roles of leaders gets skewed, and we become self-serving, rather than serving others. And that's something that I've been working on with many individuals, within my sphere of influence, to say, what, when you coach, when you mentor, when you are a leader, when you are a manager, when you are even in your family as well, because that's another form of influence, a major form of influence, in fact, is that you're there to serve others. It may not seem like that, or it may seem as if, like it's a job or a duty, but at the core of what you do must be to serve individuals, putting their needs above your own, not neglecting yourself. And that's not what I'm saying, not neglecting yourself, but making sure that you're putting their interest above your own. When you're working behind them, encouraging them and motivating them, edifying, allowing them to uncover, the potential within. Because as coaches, as mentors, you see potential. You see based on their performance, you see based on, the things that they do, that there is performance to do more and to do greater. But oftentimes it's clouded with self-doubt, low self-esteem, that inferiority complex. And I don't know if you guys in the chat has ever encountered that, but sometimes, you get intimidated by those around you. And that's where, as coach and as mentors, we are here to pull that out, to ensure that you tap into who you are. We're not here to try to change people into another version of Georgiana. Absolutely not. Georgiana is unique in her own way. So is Coach T is unique in her own way. We want to tap into you. So again, as a coach, we're here to uncover that. And ensure that you're living out your purpose. We've heard about the different definitions of serving and service, whether it's to work for, to labor on behalf, or to perform a duty, all of that. But at the core of what we do as mentors, as coach, is to love people and wanting to see the best for them. I can tell stories of from my own personal journey when as a leader I was or in my career I was told that you could be a great manager or a great supervisor. At the time I wasn't thinking people may gather around you and ask you questions and ask for your opinion and all of that, and asking you to perform certain tasks and stuff like that. But at the time I didn't see that as necessarily as a leader. But the more I hone into that and the more I got coached, I recognize they recognize something within me that I'm able to help others and motivate others and influence others. And that's because that person and that individual, which I give thanks for, she mentioned to me that there is more within you than you are actually seeing, and I am going to help you see what I see when you look in the mirror. And that I held on to, because sometimes we our perspective and our perception is clouded by our own self-doubt. And that's where we have mentors and leaders that comes in and help us to uncover that, to break down those barriers and those walls. And if that individual did not value me or love me and wanting to see the best, that it would have been just, well, you know what, I'm here just to do a job. When I go, she'll still be here, but she wanted to see me become a better version of myself. And she poured in, she shared her journey, she opened doors and gave me, resources that I can utilize to become a better leader. And in doing so, becoming a manager, becoming a supervisor in different roles. So at the core of what we do as coaches, it's about people and loving people. um Traditional leadership focuses on positions or titles, and that's when it's not done right. Oftentimes it's like it's what I do, not how I can help to build my community, not how I can help to build those around me. And it's so important, even as a leader in training, and I call myself a leader in training as well, because there's still more for me to learn. I don't know it all. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, is that there's a lot of wisdom in the room, meaning that no voice, every person has a something to contribute. Everyone has a way of being able to influence others. We look at today's society, social media, it's changed. It's so different from what it was 15 years ago. And we're all influencing in different aspects, but what we want to do is influence in a manner where it helps people to grow, it helps people to become engaged, it helps people to serve others, helps people to be a better version of themselves, and also to influence the masses. Sometimes you see a lot of negative influences out there, but we want to be a positive change, and one way to do that is to learn how to serve and serve effectively. So the servant leader focuses primarily on the community, helping to develop the community around them. And this is one platform. Coach T, knowing her personality, she was in our conversations, and we had late night conversations. It was like, how can I help others help themselves, and that was one at the core of what she does. Because when you think of the different things that she's engaged in and she's involved in, it's about helping other people. And if she did not have that love for people, it could have been just, I'll just stick to my own business, do what I've got to do my own family. But she's busy, and I know it's not her, it's not a plug to her. She might be thinking, oh my God, what are you doing? But no, it's this is a prime example, of bringing and collaborating and bringing people with like-mindedness, people who want to help others come together to help our community, build our communities to become better. Servant leaderships, they share power, they share knowledge, they share wealth. It's not honing everything to yourself and says, okay, I'm going to keep what I know. So it's so important, as practical as that may seem. It's about sharing power, putting others above yourself, helping to develop, encouraging people, motivating people. I can tell you for myself that, there are times I shared ideas, whether it's, sharing our stories, and she said, yes, go for it. Talk about, sharing quotes that empower you. And she said, yes, why don't you just prepare a book and, of your favorite quotes and things like that, and publish that and put that out there for others to be encouraged. And so that's the type of, at the core of who you are is as having a servant, heart, a servant leader, wanting to help others become better than who they are right now, and helping building your community. The other thing that we also talked about is not only just building wealth for now, but building wealth for your generation. And it's so important, especially within our community. Oftentimes, and working in the financial industry, I've seen where the legacy or the generational wealth is not left within our communities. It's lacking. And so again, that's also a part of leadership, and servant leadership, where we're training our leaders of today to not only to acquire wealth and share their knowledge, but also to build it, and build it not only for this generations, for the generations to come. So again, opening up those possibilities and those doors, making a way for others to come in, and then also build on that. um, we talk about, in terms of you know in terms of even financial gain, again, because finance background, we see, there's so many things that we can do to help change, that as leaders, how we serve, how we manage, how we equip, how we communicate is so important. The messaging is so important. And when we share messaging about, generational wealth, or even leadership, or positions, or jobs, or anything of that nature, making sure that we're communicating effectively, that it's not one-sided, that we're looking at all avenues, to actually build, to not only share the knowledge, but also to help others understand, and also be able to, to carry that on, carry that vision on. And it's so again, as a servant leader, we want to make sure that we are, not only just looking at it at a skewed vision, but looking at it from, what's going to happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and so on and so forth, or even just tomorrow, and making sure that people are equipped, and that they can continue the vision, that has been started. So, doing away with that traditional sense of, the TPPs, titles, positions, and, titles, positions. And we talk about, one of my favorite statements from John Maxwell is talking about, don't be title oriented, don't strive to be popular, don't strive to just hold a position. Those things can come and go anytime, but it's being a person of influence, positive influence, affecting long lasting change, in individuals, changing communities. And that's what, at the core, of being a servant leader, thinking about people, putting people first. And if you agree, I want you to type in the chat. You can share different things that you have encountered, even as in any leadership role, like some of the things that, some of the misconceptions that you may have, what you've been taught as, what a leader should be, right? So, and we want to, again, be in that position where we can change how people view, on coaching and mentoring, whether it's in in your professional life or in your family, in your ministry, all of that, because that is, we want to make sure that we know why we lead, and that's to serve others so that they can become the best version of themselves. I'm not sure if you have any comment, Coachy, as or or any questions or anything like that as it relates to that.
Yeah, you said a lot of awesome stuff. And I just love the whole just being a servant leadership about seeing the good in other people and how you had that mentor, that coach that poured into you so that
Hmm.
you could get to your purpose. You're right. Mentors and coaches help us get there because
Yeah,
sometimes we're unable to get there on our own because of
that's
our
right.
own, we got blinders up, or we're like, I can't do it, or I don't know if I can do it. And the
Hmm.
coaches and mentors, they really kind of help us go along our path. I
Yeah.
love that you just said that we are designed to serve, and it's
Hmm.
about other people. And I love that you said soak up and be in the moment, but you said really tap into the wisdom in the room. And I
Yes.
thought that was just powerful because how many times have you been in a room with people and there's so much wisdom, but yet
Hmm.
you didn't tap in and fully absorb all of the
Absolutely.
wisdom that was there? So
Hmm.
I thought that was powerful, that tapping into the wisdom. You were way too kind. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a
Absolutely.
purpose, and I believe for me that my purpose is to build the next generation of leaders, is to touch other people, and that's how I live my life. So much was given for me
Hmm.
to be here. I think it's only right for
Yes.
me to be able to give back. Somebody reached back and pulled me forward, and I feel
Hmm.
like that's what I have to do. That same thing. That's just what I have to do. That's what I'm called to do. And
Hmm.
like yourself, I'm a lady of faith, so I definitely believe
Hmm.
that that was what I was here to do. And
Hmm.
you're right. You can only be the best version of you. Don't try to be me. Don't try to
Oh,
be
yeah.
Georgiana. We are already taken.
That's
so
true.
so hone in on you
That's true.
and be the best version of you. So
Oh,
I think
absolutely. Go
all of
ahead.
that was awesome. So that was my thoughts on what you shared so far. But it was just so good. I mean, I just felt inspired all over again.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was about to say, I just feel inspired all over again because sometimes you do go through your day, the busyness of your day,
Hmm.
of like, I got to get this done. I got to check this box. I got to be here and do
Hmm.
this and do that. And you're right. It's really getting back to that core and that essence of it all, of building our communities, building up our communities and giving back in the way that you can,
That's
whatever that
true.
might be.
Absolutely. You also touched on something, and I know I shared about it earlier. It's that we're not, as coaches, as mentors, we're not here to transfer people into us. We're not trying to make clones of us, because every person has a purpose on this earth, and it looks different. And so, I remember another coach of mine, and yes, I do have many, because I believe that there's so many things, so many other um individuals that has experienced different things, and that are willing to share and pour into your life. So another mentor of mine, and he mentioned to me that so often he's seen individuals trying to compare themselves to others. And it's so important that we recognize that we are uniquely made, and the way that we're designed to do things will be different from others. So there's no need to compare. You can use individuals as an aspiration, as an example or something of that nature, but remember that you are unique in your way. And the way that that you may coach, the way that you may manage, that you may be a parent and all of that, it's unique to you. And that's your unique footprint, it's your unique fingerprint. As in so many in the science world and so on and so forth, like no fingerprint is alike. And even if you're a twin, I've learned that even if you're a twin and you're from the same egg or from the same embryo, like you're different in so many ways. Even from your gait, the way you walk, it's so different. So again, it's that's a reminder for us that we're unique in our ways. You might use individuals as inspiration, and although they tell you like imitation is the highest form of flattery, no, you don't need to imitate anyone. Be you. And that's where we are, as coaches, as mentors. We're here to help uncover that is within you. Your true potential. We can help guide you, we can give you direction, and so on and so forth. But we want you to be the best version of yourself, and that is so important, as such an important message, because we see so many young people and individuals just trying to be the next version of someone else. And then they miss out, they lose their identity, they lose who they are called to be, they lose their purpose. And then when that fails, trying to be like someone else, they're lost. So again, as it's so important, the messaging and how we communicate, is it's so important that we honing that we want people to be their own unique individuals and to serve their purpose. So going into Thank you so much for that contribution, Coach D. The characteristics of a servant leader. So just a few things that I've, pointed out, like being an intentional listener. It's so important that people know that they're being heard. And also as a coach and as a mentor, you're not only listening to what is being said. You're looking at body languages, you're looking at behavior, looking at patterns, and to see, and then so that you can be able to coach effectively, and so being an intentional listener, right? So that is so important. And then the other characteristic is being committed to fostering an environment of positive growth. So again, serving others, you're setting the tone, you're fostering that environment to ensure that when people come in, they know what you are about, and that you want them to identify and understand the values that you possess, and also to helping them uncovering their true potential. What are their values? What is important to them? Are they being heard? Do they feel that do they see that they're able to live out their true potential? And also at the end of the day, when you do foster that environment, it's something that that was mentioned to me by one of my coaches and my mentor said that be prepared that when your mentee becomes even more successful than you, and that's okay, because that is a part of coaching. You're coaching for growth, effective change, and what you may start, they will be able to continue. And so that's so important as well. And being an effective communicator and connector. It's one thing to communicate, and we are all able to do so because we all talk, but our messaging has to be important. But as important is our ability to connect with the individual. John Maxwell wrote a book recently. He says everyone communicates, few connect. And that resonated with me because there's so many messages out there. So many things are being shared, but we need to have that ability to connect with that individual, know where they're at, ensuring that they're comfortable, being in your presence. And not only that, in your being present in your presence, meaning so that you are there. And I know this also tied in with being an intentional listener, but you sometimes you can be present but not, present. You're in someone's presence but they're not present. They're thinking about everything else. They're thinking about, oh, when is this meeting finishing? Oh, what am I going to cook later? My husband's going to call me soon. Oh, I need to finish this project and all of that. But we need to ensure that individuals that we're coaching or we're mentoring, that they know that we are present in their presence and that we're listening to them and they're being heard and they're being valued and what they have to say matters. So that's so important. And that, again, is also a part of being a servant leader. Being as a leader in any essence, you're a visionary. What is your vision for, this relationship, this coaching mentee session? What is the outcome that you hope to achieve? What are you looking for? And this is where not only sharing your own vision but allowing them to uncover their own vision. What do they want to see? Where do they see themselves? If they had to, in 5 years time, pick up the paper and there's a for lack of a better word, like an article about them, what would it say? And one of the things that I've done with a few of the mentees is like, tell me about yourself in 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. What would the messaging look like? What would they say about you? What would you like to accomplish? And then from there on, what steps that you'll take? One of the things that I fondly remember when we met, Coach T always says, write the vision and make it plain. And I remember that, and that stuck with me. The scripture in Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision and make it plain, write it down. And and it's so important, so crucial. Sometimes, yes, you can record in your phone and stuff like that, but there's a difference when you write the vision down, what you want to accomplish, and you can go back to it and see where you are and what you've accomplished throughout that time frame. And it helps you to connect the past and the current and the future, and to show what you've done in the past, where you are today, and where you're going. So it's so important to be that visionary leader as well as servant leader. The other characters is having that awareness, being self-aware, knowing who you are, being able to identify the areas for improvement, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths, being willing to, uncover biases, that you may or may not have, being approachable, being accountable, being willing to accept feedback or criticism, and oftentimes traditional leadership would be like you're giving the feedback. I'm telling you what is wrong or what I'm seeing. But being a servant leader now, you're changing that. You're pivoting. You're changing the way you look at things. Like, yes, you know what? I may not like the way, I would have gone about this a different way. This may suit someone else, but not me right now where I'm at. So all of those things that we need to, be open and having that awareness around us. And then being accountable. So even as a coach, as I mentioned for myself, I am also being coached. I am also, being accountable to my own personal development, whether I'm reading books or finding other resources that I can use to enhance my skills. As much as I'm asking of you, then I must be doing myself. And I can give a prime example. When I applied for a position as a manager at the financial institution that I worked at, and I remember the managers that were interviewing me, and they said to me, Georgiana, someone in your role, in this particular role, usually a lot of these individuals, they stay in this role until they retire. They never, aspire to do more, and so on and so forth. And I said, and I said, yes, looking at the organization and looking at this role, I can see that, there's a lot of individuals that, remained in that role, and they would retire from that role, from the institution, from that role. And I said, you know what? I said, a part of this role, and I remember telling that to them, that what a part of the responsibility is to be a coach. And I said, whatever I'm teaching, I must also do myself. So if I'm coaching individuals to be better individuals to move on to newer roles or newer positions, then I must demonstrate that myself. And even if I want to remain in this role, whenever I do my own personal development or my performance appraisal with my manager, there should be a progression of growth, that I'm
Mhm.
learning new things, that I'm finding new ways on how to coach effectively, even if my staff moves on to something different. But I
Mhm.
myself must ensure that I demonstrate that. So being accountable, demonstrating that type of responsibility, demonstrating that ability to, take ownership of my own personal growth. And it's so important. And I remember those managers, they went to the hiring manager, says, you know what, that Georgiana, she just told us off. I said, I didn't tell you off, but and I said, I didn't. I just simply said a part of my role is to coach, for, for change and for transformation and for growth, for people to take on new roles, being able to identify their greater potential within them, finding another job, another role within the company or outside of the company. And I myself must demonstrate that as well. So, and that's something that also stuck with me, that it doesn't matter where you are, even if you decide to remain in the same position,
Mhm.
my encouragement to you is to consistently be growing, consistently be learning, finding new ways to connect with other individuals within your industry, to find out what they are doing to effect change, and to help to enhance the organization that they're with, whether it's in professional or in ministry, or even in your family, because again, sometimes we tend to become comfortable in where we're at, and not realizing that that brings stagnation, and that prohibits growth. So we want to ensure that as servant leaders, that we're being accountable, but also demonstrating, that which we're professing and teaching as well. And it may look different for everyone. However, personal growth, it's on a personal perspective, yes, but we want to ensure that whatever we're sharing and asking others to do, that we ourselves are doing it. So those are just a few things, in terms of characteristics of a leader, a servant leader. And there's so many others that that I could share, whether it's being, the art of persuasion or stewardship and all of that. And those are also integral, but also we've had, as a person of faith, I've learned so much from the Bible, how, Christ led his subordinates and his disciples. And
Mhm.
one scripture that really stuck with me is Matthew 20. And it talks about, if you want to become great, you need to be a servant first. And that is something that I hone in onto, that, if you want to be great in this life, and not great just not in the sense of self-promoting yourself, of self-promotion, sorry, but more of, if you want to impact the nations and impact generations, if you want your legacy to live on, it's more than just being a traditional leader, but being
Mhm.
a servant leader. And you will see that legacy live on from generation to generation. So that is just a few things that I had to share with you today. And my encouragement, that even as you do your own research, even though and as you share this broadcast, as you listen to this broadcast, just to rethink, refocus. How can I be a servant? How can I serve others around me? How can I become a great servant leader, so that I not only impact me and my family or my small circle of influence, but impact the nation and generations to come. Thank you so much.
Woo! Now you just gave us all kind of nuggets. That was amazing. Let me tell you, that was amazing because I think that you're right. We have to get back uh, to the basics and getting back
Yeah.
to our core. And
Mm,
some of the things you said with the characteristics of a servant leader is being an intentional listener. So really listening to understand, not to respond, being
that's great.
committed to foster an environment of positive growth, effective change, and being an effective communicator and connector,
Mm,
self awareness of knowing your strengths and understanding your weaknesses, and being accountable. Even the manager needs a coach, the
oh,
coach
yeah.
needs a coach, the leader needs a coach or a
Absolutely.
mentor. And so I think that was beautifully said that, even though I'm working with other people, I still myself have an accountability partner. I still have a
Mm,
coach. I still have a mentor, and I have committed myself to grow. So those of you that are listening, that are watching this broadcast, if you're in positions of authority, whether you're a manager or supervisor or team
mhm,
leader or coordinator or whatever your organization may call it, think about it and
mhm,
think, are you that servant leader? Because
mhm.
your people are looking up to you. So thinking about that, and that really is our duty, especially when we are leading others. So I think this was just absolutely amazing. This is one that I will definitely listen to over and over again, because I think it's important for us to always remember the why, and it's really
Yes.
not about us. It's really not
Mhm,
about us. So
mhm,
in our last few minutes together,
mhm.
like, what's one of your favorite books that you would recommend? So I'm all about giving the viewer something practical, and I know, as you can see with my full library behind
Yes.
you, that I'm all about a good book. John Maxwell says some of your first mentors you'll find in a book. So
Yeah.
what's one or two of your favorite books that you would highly recommend for our viewers?
I love The Servant Leaders, and of course this is by Robert K. Greenleaf. And he was the one of the integral individuals that coined the phrase servant leadership. So I would definitely recommend that. Of course, John Maxwell, the 15 laws of growth. Everyone communicates, few connects. Those are some of my favorite. And Failing Forward, that that book, as much as some people may hate to hear word failure, but failing forward is basically like, it's okay, sometimes we will fail, but it's what will you learn from it, how will you grow from it. And one of the acronym that, and I we've shared it several times as well. Fail is first attempt in learning. Sometimes, yeah, the first try you won't get it, but then you revisit, you look at what you've done, what you can improve on, and move forward. Whether it's in your business, your professional life, or your familial life, wherever. But failure is not a death sentence. It's just your first attempt in learning. you know and it's practical things that, when you think about it, really, when you first started cooking, you probably burnt the rice. You know what, but you that didn't stop you from trying again. So it's the same thing, about failure. Sometimes we fear failure, and we allow it to debilitate us and even prevent us from starting. And of course, Coach T, or book about fear, and it's so important, that we do not allow fear to really take over and prevent us from accomplishing or doing things, because you never know what's on the other end. you may learn something or you may become successful, right? So even if you fail at the first attempt, you will learn from it. And then
Mhm.
also, and when you try again, you become successful at it because you've taken what you've learned and move forward and run with it. So those are just a few of my books that I keep going back to, amongst others. And yeah, and always reading, like looking for different resources and materials. If you find reading difficult, another recommendation that I have is, find some of the books that they've actually transformed into movies, or listening. Do get your iPods and your kudos out and stuff like that, and you listen to the information, but utilize whatever tools and resources that you have out there to enhance your learning and equip you to become a better leader. So whatever medium may be available to you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, how can our viewers, our listeners, how can they stay connected with you and your work?
Okay, so I am currently on Instagram, so you can look for me in Georgiana Collington 5. And then I'm also, you email Georgiana Collington at gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook. So at this point, you can also find me on the John Maxwell link, where you can, as a mentor, as a coach. So I am registered there as well, so you can connect with me in that manner. And also, yeah, it's just I prefer communication by email because I check my emails every day, as well. So if you want to connect with me that way, I'm also in the process of launching JSOS. So that's Just Sharing Your Stories. That's an organization that I'm busy finalizing the details of, and I'm sure I will definitely let you know, Coach T, about that. So it's about, the premises of it is just sharing our stories, and it's so important that we do, because when we share our stories, it helps others to learn that they're not alone, and that there is an opportunity to grow from someone else's story, but also, yeah, you can do it. Like you can help to empower or motivate or encourage someone, but most importantly, that you're not alone. And each story that we are privy to, of the struggles and the successes, and overcoming different challenges and still standing. And that's what we want to encourage, individuals around the world to share what you're facing, because unfortunately, in a society that we live in, it's about me, and we want to keep what we have, and we are, or have an attachment to shame towards it because we failed. But this is another way of really helping people to liberate themselves, and by sharing their stories, and helping to encourage and empower someone else. So that's coming up shortly. And then just my 365 book of quotes. So that's also at the printer. So as soon as that's out, I will let you know. And another book that is set to be released in September. It's called But God. I don't want to write a book, and it's a very layman, because it's, sometimes we're told that we need to do things, and so I helped to co-write that one with another friend of mine, and it's just different encounters, and experiences that faced in life, and how we overcame them. So I'm excited about that, and there are a few more things on the horizon, but I will definitely share that as time progresses. Yes. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm super excited and I can't wait to get to purchase my signed copy of the book. So
Yes.
thank you so much for coming into our virtual learning lab. I learned so much, and there were so many tips that you gave. Audience, if you could drop those tips that you learned in the
Hmm.
chat so that we can go back and have those in our own personal quote books,
Yes.
would be awesome. So, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Leadership Tidbits with Coach T. Wilson, where our mentor in our laboratory was Miss Georgiana Collington, where
Yes.
she gave us those tips about being a servant leader. Please share this out. to anybody that can use it. And as we say here, you came in to learn, make sure you apply and go out and teach. So thank
Yes.
you so much. Please tune in next week to hear from another awesome mentor. And until next time, have an amazing week.